Hey, how's it going? I'm Fridge, welcome to the channel. Path of Exile 0.3 came out a few days ago and there's a ton of new players in the game. So I decided to make a video answering all of the questions that I had when I was a new player to Path of Exile 2. In Path of Exile 2, right now, there are only 7 different classes to choose from, and each class has its own ascendancies that you choose from later on in the game after you complete an ascendancy trial. First you have the Ranger, then the Warrior, the Sorceress, the Witch, the Mercenary, the Monk, and then the Huntress. The class you choose is only important for 2 reasons. First, each class has access to ascendancies, which are unlocked through ascendancy trials throughout the game, and each ascendancy has different abilities and skills that come in handy to your build later on in the game. Next is the passive skill tree. So in the passive skill tree, depending on which class you choose, you start in a different position of the skill tree. For example, with Ranger, you start in the bottom right hand of the skill tree. And for someone like the Warrior, you start on the left side of the skill tree. Depending on your class that you choose, it is recommended that you use different types of equipment and weapons and skills, but you can use anything with any type of class. There's a great guide on Mobalytics that gives a breakdown of every class and ascendancy in the game and gives you a ton of information on the differences between the two. I highly recommend checking that out. Skills and supports are a very complicated subject because there are so many different skills and support gems that do different things and can make your build much stronger or much weaker. Skills are the basic way to deal damage. So when you're in the game, you'll get items that drop from monsters when you kill them. They're called uncut skill gems. These range from level 1 to level 20. When you get an uncut skill gem, if you right click it, it will open the gem cutting skills menu. From here, you can select from all of the different skills in the entire game. On the left side, it's sorted by the type of weapon that you're using, or you can select all gems. And this will list every single gem in the entire game. Now you may notice that some of these are grayed out and have an exclamation point next to them. That is because I do not meet the requirements to equip that skill. So like this one here says, warning, I have incorrect weapon type. So currently I'm using a bow, so I cannot use the explosive grenade because it is for the crossbow, as you can see here. Another example is Ice Nova. So here you see it says, warning, 57 intelligence required. So I do not meet the attribute requirements for this skill. I do not have 57 intelligence. So once you find a skill that you want to use, you select it and then hit the engrave button. Then it will turn into a skill gem, like this tornado shot here. Then if you hit G, it'll open your skills menu. And you can click on your tornado shot or whatever your other skill and put it in your skills slots. And then you'll be able to use it by binding it to one of your keys down below. One thing to keep in mind with skill gems is different skills require different level gems. These at the top are all level 1 skills, so they only require a level 1 skill gem. While these at the bottom are all level 13, so they require a level 13 skill gem. Once you have your skill decided, then you can support your skill with support gems. These uncut support gems are leveled 1 through 5. 5 being the best. Same thing with support gems. If you right click, it will take you to the support gem menu. Now here I have my bow shot skill selected, so if I click on lightning arrow instead, it will show me the recommended support gems for lightning arrow. Now if you don't want to see the recommended, you can hit this checkbox down here and it will show you every single support gem that will work for lightning arrow. Or you can click on all gems. But be careful, if you select all gems, it will show you even skill gems that won't work with certain other skills. So we have a level 5 support gem, so that means we can engrave it to any support that we want to in the game. But if we had a level 1, we could only engrave it to level 1 supports. So I chose Prolonged Duration 2 as my support, so now I hit G, open up my skills menu, and I can put that inside of my tornado shot skill. The last type of gem that there is called spirit gems. So spirit is another resource that your character has, kind of like mana. It's shown over here in this little bar around your mana. I have 10 out of 100 right now because I am currently using a row amount, which uses some of my spirit. So if we take this level 13 spirit gem, it will show all of the spirit skills that I can use. And spirit skills are persistent buffs that are always on. So one that's very common for my build is called Herald of Thunder. So basically anytime I shock an enemy, it strikes other enemies with a lightning bolt. This is not a skill that I have to activate myself, it is just always on. So once you have a spirit gem, like the row amount here, you put it into your slot and it will initially be deactivated, so it'll look like this, and you have to right click to activate, and then my row will appear. Or if you have like Herald of Thunder, it'll pop up here, because I also have Herald of Thunder up here active. And with spirit gems, you can also support them with support gems. Now, depending on your support gem, it will tell you different requirements that it adds. So these requirements only add 5 strength attributes to it, where others may increase the amount of spirit that you need to use the skill. So be careful of that. A very complicated part of Path of Exile 2 is the damage system. So in PoE, there are multiple different damage types. There's physical damage, there's elemental damage, and there's chaos damage. Elemental damage includes cold, fire, and electricity. Each of these damage types have different effects that may cause you to want to use them over the others. Like lightning damage can cause shock, which paralyzes your enemy for a certain amount of time, or fire that ignites an enemy that causes burn damage over time. These different types of damage are scaled in different types of ways. 2 of the basic ways are through flat damage and through percent damage. So the flat damage, you have a ring or a weapon or a pair of gloves that add flat damage to your skill. So they say something like adds number physical damage to skill or adds number lightning damage to skill. That is flat damage. It adds the amount that it says. Now the other type is percent damage. So your weapon may say increased elemental damage to attacks or increased physical damage to attacks with a number and percentage in front of it. This increases your base damage of your weapon by a percentage. There are 2 different ways to scale your damage. There's more damage and increased damage. This can be seen on your weapons and in your passive skill tree. More damage is multiplicative. More damage is much better than increased damage. Anytime you see more damage is most likely beneficial to take it. Increased damage is less so. If you want a more comprehensive video on how damage works in Path of Exile 2, I'll recommend this video by Silent Still. He has a quick breakdown of everything that goes into damage. It's pretty thorough and a little complicated, but he does a really good job in breaking it down and make it simple to understand. Hey guys, quick interruption. This is only my 2nd video, so I'd really appreciate it if you left a like and subscribe to the channel. It'd really help me out. I'm currently at 9 subscribers. It'd be cool to get it to 10 or maybe, 20 or 30 or something. Also, I stream on Twitch and I'd really appreciate it if you followed the stream and stop by sometime to watch me. I'll put a link in the description so you can drop a follow. Now, back to tip number 4. Path of Exile is notorious for its passive skill tree. It is a web of insanity. It is absolutely crazy how much there is to this thing. Like, there are so many just little different nodes that can make or break your build, and there's so much diversity in this tree that can allow your character to do so many different things. A basic breakdown is each class type starts in a different position. So the ranger starts from these 2 nodes and can branch out from there, but they can branch to any part of the tree as long as they have enough skill points to reach that part of the tree. Other classes start from other points and get other benefits. So like a warrior will start here and they're more likely to use melee skills, so they get increased melee damage from their start. And a ranger is more likely to use projectile skills, so they have projectile damage from the start. There are 4 different types of nodes in the passive skill tree. They're the small passive nodes, attribute nodes, jewel nodes, and then there are notables. Jewel nodes are scattered throughout the tree pretty rarely. They actually nerfed these because they are really, really good in the start of the game. But this is a jewel node. So typically they're empty like this and you allocate them and they don't give you anything. But you can get a jewel with different effects on it. Like this one gives me faster start to energy shield. I get 1% of my maximum life every time I kill something, and increased skill effect duration. And then I can put this jewel inside this socket, and I get all three of those effects just from this one node. So jewels can be extremely powerful. The last node type on the tree is notables. So notables are all the big nodes. So like this is a notable, this is a notable, but if you notice, this one's even bigger. These are typically build defining notables that give you really, really cool interactions and can change your build completely. One of the most famous build defining notables is Chaos Inoculation. So with Chaos Inoculation, it makes your maximum life 1, but the upside to this is actually really good. It makes you immune to chaos damage and bleeding damage. That's just a basic rundown of the passive skill tree for Path of Exile. I would highly recommend, if you're interested, to look up a more in-depth guide on YouTube. There are plenty out there, and the more you learn about the passive skill tree, the better you can be at creating builds and making your character stronger. Path of Exile has many different equipment types. They have weapons, offhands, they have helmets, boots, body armors. All of this stuff that you see here are all the different equipment types. These are dropped when you're fighting mobs, or you can buy them from vendors. Each type of equipment is used for different things. So like boots usually have movement speed on them, where a weapon is used for attacking, so it has all your damage on it. There are 3 defenses that your equipment has: armor, evasion, and energy shield. Depending on which equipment you have, they have different defenses on them. As you can see here, this body armor uses armor, so it has 315 armor. This body armor uses evasion, and then this one uses energy shield. I'll go into each of the 3 defenses here in a bit, but let's focus just on the equipment right now. Also for equipment, there's not only just armor, evasion, and energy shield, you can have a combination of 2 as well. So there are bases that are armor and evasion, or armor and energy shield, and there are also bases that are evasion and energy shield, or evasion and armor. And this applies to all of the armor, so it applies to your gloves, your body armor, your helmet, and your boots. If you look at my character now, my helmet is an evasion helmet, my body armor is evasion, my gloves are evasion, but my boots are armor. Now, depending on your build, you want different mixes of each kind to help your character survive. So we have both of these body armor pieces that are both armor, but they're different. So there are things called bases. So depending on your level, different bases will drop for you. This body armor requires level 65, so it's a little bit better than this one that requires level 54. As you can see, this one has 534 armor, and then this one only has 315 armor. As you get higher and higher level and kill monsters that are higher and higher level, they'll drop better and better bases that have higher levels of armor, evasion, and energy shield to make your character stronger. Once you have a piece of equipment that you really, really like, you can improve it with quality or runes. Quality can be applied to wands, staves, and scepters with the Arcanist Etcher. It can be applied to armor with armor scraps. It can be applied to martial weapons with blacksmith's whetstones. It can be applied to flasks with glassblower's bauble, and to skill gems with the gemcutter's prism. Runes can be applied with the artificer's orbs. Depending on the equipment, it can have a different amount of runes in it. So like right now, my bow can have a max of 2 runes, my body armor 2 runes, helmet 1, gloves 1, boots 1. Runes are a really good way to fill in holes in your build. So if you're missing like a little bit of intelligence, you can add intelligence in with a rune, or if you're missing some resistances, you can add those in, or you can add in damage to your weapons. So like here, I added 1 to 30 lightning damage to my bow, and 1 to 30 again for my bow. On my helmet, I added dexterity. My body armor, I added lightning resistance. So back to defenses. Armor, it's really good at negating physical damage. Depending on how much armor you have, it reduces the physical damage you take by a percentage. Evasion rating makes it so you dodge attacks. So the higher evasion rating you have, the higher percentage chance you have to dodge a monster's attack. Energy shield is the same as life. It is just on top of your life and regenerates. When you get attacked by a monster, damage is taken from your energy shield first and then your life. So the typical way to go is to have at least 2 defenses on your build and try to focus on those, not on all 3, because having all 3 you can't really focus enough to get the benefits from any of them. Also, you may have noticed that this body armor that gives you armor has a strength requirement of 121. So in order to equip this body armor, you need at least 121 strength. Strength is one of the 3 attributes, just like dexterity and intelligence are the other 2. Strength, dexterity, and intelligence go 1-to-1 with armor, evasion, and energy shield. So things that require strength are usually armor based. Things that require dexterity are evasion based, and things that require intelligence are energy shield based. So if we take a look at this body armor here, it is armor and evasion, and it requires strength and dexterity in order to equip. So you get the benefit of armor and evasion from this body armor, but the armor isn't as high. So this is a level 65 requirement, and you only get 314 armor. This is also level 65, but you get 534. But you do get 285 evasion. So you really just have to weigh the pros and cons, which ones you want more of, to decide, which armor bases, which defenses you want to go with. Another defense that you probably know a little bit more about are resistances. So if we hit C and go to our character screen, we can see what our character resistances are. So right now my character has 37 fire, 35 cold, 43 lightning, and 18 chaos. These are the different elements. Armor is used for physical damage. Resistances are used for elemental damage. Each element and chaos have resistant caps at 75%. So if I were to get 100 fire resistance, I wouldn't be 100% immune to fire. I would only be 75%, and that other 25% would just be wasted. So you want to try to get 75% across the board. Now this can be changed through different methods to increase or decrease the cap, but that's a little more in depth than this guide is for. Now you may see that my resistances are actually pretty low right now, and that's because I just made it to maps, into the end game of Path of Exile. I made it past all 4 acts, past the interlude, and now I'm in end game. And as you go through the acts, you actually get a debuff from each of the acts that reduces your resistances. So I probably have around like 100 cold resist, but each act that I go into lowers my resistances by a little bit. So you have to put more and more resistances on your character to actually fight that off. So every single equipment in the game has these things called affixes. So if we look at this body armor here, we see it has chaos resistance, and it's labeled as a suffix. So affixes are split into 2 categories. They are split into a suffix and a prefix. Prefixes are on top, suffixes are on bottom. So if we go over here, there's a prefix and a suffix. Each equipment can have 6 affixes on it total, with a caveat that I'll explain in a second. Now, a lot of the items you pick up won't have any affixes at all. So if we go over to Zelina's shop here and we look for a normal item, right here, this crossbow actually, see how it's gray up here? That means that it's normal. So it has no affixes at all. Ignore this implicit here. We will go over implicits in a second, but it has no prefixes or suffixes. So if we buy this crossbow here, we see that it's gray, which means it's normal. Equipment has different tiers. So this is normal tier, and then this body armor here is magic tier, and same with all of these are magic. They're blue, so that means they're magic. This one has 2 affixes, which is the maximum for magic. So magic equipment can only have 2 affixes. The next level is rare. So if we go over to my bow, it's gold. So that means it's rare, and it can have up to 6. Right now I only have 5 affixes on my weapon, but it can go up to 6. So after rare, there's another level called unique, and you can't change a rare into a unique. Uniques are their own things that drop when you kill mobs and have their own special effects and everything like that. Some uniques are really, really bad in this game. Others are insanely powerful and really, really good and have really cool mechanics. The next thing you need to know about affixes are tiers. So if we look here at this prefix, this fire damage prefix, you see T8 at the end. This is the tier of the affix. So tier 1 is the very best. So if I had a tier 1 fire damage, it would be much more damage than, 10 to 13. It'd be like 30 to like 40 or something like that. It would be a tier 1. So tier 1s are obviously more rare than lower tiers like tier 9s or 10s. So after tiers, the next thing, like I said earlier, is the implicit. So you can't really see it here, but it says implicit right here. So on every single twin bow, there's the implicit bow attacks fire an additional arrow. This is unique to this type of bow, to dual string bows, and it's separate from all the other affixes. So I can have 6 affixes on this bow and then also an implicit modifier. This adds 2 to 60 lightning damage, comes from the 2 runes that I have on my bow. So don't worry about that. Next, there are enchants, which I don't have an example of, but when you corrupt an item using a Val orb, you can right click it and click it onto an item to corrupt it. And you have a chance, a small chance, I think it's a 1 in 4 chance, to get an enchant on an item. And an enchant is similar to an implicit, but it's additional. So you can have up to 8 modifiers on a weapon. But that is the basics of affixes on equipment. So how do you get affixes on your gear? That is where currency comes into play. So this is currency. Currency is a wide variety of things, as a wide variety of effects. The most basic form of currency is the Orb of Transmutation. So if we go back to this normal crossbow here, and we take this Orb of Transmutation, if we read it, it says upgrades a normal item to a magic item with 1 modifier. So if we right click the Orb of Transmutation, and then we click on the crossbow, it will add 1 affix to it. And then if we take this Orb of Augmentation, which augments a magic item with a new random modifier. So it will take this magic, keyword magic item, and it will add a second modifier onto it. So we got accuracy. So now we have a prefix and a suffix. We can't add any more augments because it's full. So we have to turn it into a rare by using a regal orb, which upgrades a magic item to a rare item, adding 1 modifier. So there we go. We got 3 levels of projectile skills, which is actually pretty good. That's funny. But now it's rare, and you can see it's gold. The next form of currency that we use is an exalted orb. This augments a rare item with a new modifier. You can't use it on magic items. You can't use it on unique items. You have to use it on rare. So right click this, click on here, it adds physical damage right here. So now it has 4 on there, and we could use 2 more exalted orbs to make it 6 modifiers if we wanted to. But I don't really want to waste them. As you can see, I don't have a lot of currency right now. The next form of currency is a chaos orb. So this removes a random modifier and augments a rare item, keyword rare, with a new modifier. So if we take one of these and click on this crossbow here, it will change the modifiers. So using that chaos orb, it gave us this critical strike chance, critical hit strike chance, instead of whatever it was before, I don't remember. And as you can see, newly added in this update, they added different levels of each of these. So now there is the normal levels, and then there's greater, and then I don't have any, but there's perfect. So the greater and perfect versions of these orbs do the same thing as the base, except for the minimum modifier level is of a higher tier. So an Orb of Transmutation can add a affix of any tier to your weapon. A greater Orb of Transmutation adds level 55 and higher tiers, and a perfect orb will add level 70 and higher tiers. So it will guarantee that your weapon is better when you use the greater or perfect compared to the original. But these currencies drop at a much lower rate, so be careful using them. So those are the basic currencies for adding affixes to your equipment. Next, there are alchemy orbs. Alchemy orbs upgrade a normal item to a rare item with 4 modifiers. So if we had this guy here that was normal still, we could right click the alchemy orb, and click on the crossbow, and then we would have all 4 of these affixes again. Next is the Val Orb. So this is how we corrupt an item, and that just changes it in an unpredictable way. So there's 4 options. It can do nothing. Option 2 is it adds an enchant, like I said before. Option 3 is it changes the sockets on an item. So if I corrupted this, it could give it 3 sockets, or it could change it down to 1 socket. And option 4 is it changes the item in some way. So it changes it to unique, or it could change like this. It could change the physical damage from 2 to 4 to like 5 to 10 or something like that. Next is the annulment orb, which I don't have any of, and those are used to remove an affix on an item. So if, say, we didn't want one of these items, we could remove them, but be careful, it's completely random if you just use the Orb of Annulment, so it could hit any of these 4, so be very careful there. Next is the Chance Orb that I don't have any of, and this upgrades a normal white item to a unique. Well, it has a chance to, keyword chance. It's a really low chance to upgrade to a unique, but that's how people gamble in this game and have fun. Next, probably the most important currency of the game, this is the Divine Orb. This is like the US dollar of Path of Exile. It's kind of how you price everything. Well, the Exalted Orb is kind of like that too, but the Divine Orb is much more profitable. When you drop a Divine Orb, you're like, hell yeah, dude, let's go. But Divine Orbs are used for more than just trade. Divine Orbs randomize the number of values of modifiers on an item. So if we were to apply this Divine Orb to this crossbow, it would change these modifiers within the range. So this physical damage, which is 19 to 29 and 33 to 49, it would change it somewhere in this range. So it would change it from like 19 to like 25, and then like 48 to like 36 or something like that. And it has the possibility to change all of these within the range. It does not change the tier, it only changes the number within this range listed here. So there are 3 other currencies here that are really, really high value and like chase items basically. So there's the Fracturing Orb, and when you apply a Fracturing Orb on an item, it will save that affix, so it cannot be changed no matter what you do to the item. So if I applied it to this and the fracture hit this +3 level of all projectiles, I could use a bunch of annulment orbs on this item, and no matter how many annulment orbs I used on it, it would still always have the level of all projectile skills. So it can be very, very useful, but they are very expensive. The next 2 are chase items that I have never had in my like hundreds of hours of playing Path of Exile 2. There's the Mirror of Calandra, and then this Hinakora's Lock, which is brand new. Those are kind of advanced items, but basically the Mirror of Calandra, you use it on an item and it creates an exact copy that's unmodifiable. So this is used for like super high tier perfect items, and are very, very, very rare. Hinakora's Locks are used for endgame crafting, and they basically, when you right click them and apply them to an item, and then you go to use another currency on that item, it will tell you what that currency is going to do before you use it, so you don't have to waste that currency. It's very valuable. Next, there's the Jeweler Orbs, which you apply to skill gems to give them more slots. So the Lesser gives you 3, and then Greater gives you 4, and then Perfect gives you 6. There's the Artificer Orbs, which give you more sockets on your stuff. We already went over the quality stuff. There's Wisdom Scrolls, which those ID items, you know that's pretty simple. And then there's just these shards down here, which once you get 10 of each of these, it goes into the currency. So 10 transmutation shards goes into 1 transmutation orb, and so on for the rest of these. There are lots of other currencies in the game, but these are just the basics that you need to know as a beginner. So in every town you have multiple different vendors that do different things. The basic things to use vendors for is to buy and sell items, ID items, disenchant items, and to gamble. So in each town there are different vendors that do the same exact thing. So in the Clearfell encampment, there's Una, you can buy staves, scepters, wands, mana, life flasks, rings, stuff like that. But you can also disenchant things. So if I disenchant this, it'll give me a regal shard. That can be useful if you're, run low on transmutes or regals or something like that. Then there's Renly, who you can buy and sell equipment from, where you can look to see, hey, is this equipment good for me? And he has basically everything you need that Una doesn't have. Next is Finn. So with Finn, you can gamble, which is really fun with your gold. You don't really know what you're going to get. It's completely random. So if you buy a crossbow here, boom, we have just this random crossbow, which is actually like decent for low level stuff. I'm just going to sell that back. And you can gamble all kinds of stuff with him. Gambling is actually pretty good when you're first starting. And you can get some really good items from that, or you can get really unlucky. You know, it's gambling after all. The next NPC that we have is the hooded one. He's in most places, and he's used to identify your items. So after you complete the quest with Una to kind of resurrect him, you no longer need your scrolls of wisdom. You can actually just run over to him if you have stuff in your inventory that needs ID'd and click identify items. Or a quick shortcut is you can hold control and then click on him, and he will identify everything in your inventory automatically. So you don't have to click on him and then click identify. It just saves you a click. Next, there is the salvage bench and reforge bench. These come a little later on. Salvage bench is in Act 1, reforge bench is in Act 3, I think. But the salvage bench you use on items with quality or with sockets like this, and then they'll give you shards that will add up to these quality items and these artificer orbs, so you can add runes and quality to your gear. Next is the reforging bench. So if you have 3 of the same item, like if I go here, if I take these 3 bows and then go to the reforging bench and add them all in here, hit reforge, it'll create a new item for me out of those 3, and then I can ID it real quick, and it has completely new affixes on it. As you probably know, NPCs also give you quests and rewards. They'll tell you where to go and things like that. The next thing to talk about is the currency exchange. So this is unlocked a little later on, and whatever NPC you use to gamble at that act, they usually have the currency exchange. So you open up the currency exchange, you say, I have like an exalted orb and I want to exchange it for a divine orb. So as you can see, it takes 108 exalted orbs for 1 divine orb. This can be done for a ton of different things in game. You can do it for skill gems, you can do it for runes, you can do it for expedition stuff, you can do it for currency, all kinds of different things you can exchange for here. It's a really, really useful tool. So let's say you have like a ton of one currency and you want another one, you can exchange it. Super useful. Next, we have a brand new thing added in this newest update, the asynchronous currency exchange, which if you go to your currency exchange person in your hideout and then manage shop, it'll actually take you here to your merchant tab where you can place things up for sale. So instead of using the trade website, you can sell things here in your tabs. You set the price, and then even when you're offline, someone can just click on it on the trade website and buy the item from you, and then your earnings will show up over here whenever you sell something. So you don't need to actually trade with people. They can just trade without you online, or you can be online and you don't have to leave your map or anything. It's all done asynchronous. Now, the most important tip of this entire video, you need a loot filter. Loot filters are so important in Path of Exile. The game's default loot filter is absolutely terrible. It doesn't highlight anything, and everything looks super bland, and everything shows up on your screens. So if you're at the end of campaign or in maps or in endgame and you kill a bunch of monsters, then your entire screen is literally filled with loot and you can't see anything. So a loot filter is super useful in that situation because it hides all the junk, all the stuff that you're never going to pick up, never going to sell or anything, and hides it all. And then only the valuable things will show up, and then it will highlight them in order of like most valuable. So depending on like what colors you have set up and stuff like that, it will change the colors. If you want some help with the loot filter, if you check out my last video right here, I actually go through a bunch of tools and add-ons for Path of Exile 2 that are super useful, and a loot filter is one of them in there. I tell you what website to go to and kind of how to basically set it up. It's super cool tool, super easy to use, and is supported by GGG and something that they want players to use. So those of you that stayed to the end of the video, I have a little bonus tip number 11 for you here. One thing that I really highly recommend for new players is to use a add-on called Exile UI. So I go over it in that video with the loot filter, my last video, my very first video I ever made. And Exile UI is a great tool once you get it set up to actually guide you through the campaign and tell you what quests you should do and what quests you shouldn't do and what kind of rewards they give you. And then like when you're running through like Clearfell encampment or something like that, it tells you how to get through the zone and where the next zone is. And it has tons of useful features for stuff like that to help save you a ton of time in game, and I highly recommend it. I use it every time I play the campaign, and it has a ton of really great features. That's all the tips and tricks I have for today, and if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe, and leave a comment if I missed anything or if you need any help with anything that I talked about today, and I'll be there to respond. And thanks again for watching. Have a good day.